From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Chris Terrell Podcast, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What failures did you encounter? And what lessons did you extract from that failure? Come on now. Don't let the inconvenience of a failure go by without you getting your lesson out of it. That's your reward for your troubles. Now, if you're new here, my name is Chris Terrell, and I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting, up, down again, before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and made some permanent, meaningful, and lasting changes to my actual lifestyle, habits, routines, my system of beliefs, my community, and my environment. As I changed all those, that led to me getting new results in life, and now I am here every week teaching the good people like you how to get the same results in your life. How can you lose the weight and keep it off? How can you get everything it is that you desire to have in life? One of the ways you can do that is by coming and joining my free Facebook group. You can go to christerrellcoaching.com and scroll down. You'll find a link where you can join my free weight loss support group. We got a lot of people in there, and it is, in my opinion, the objectively best. Actually, I'm super biased, but it is the best weight loss Facebook support group out there. However, you don't actually need to take my word for it. You could just come on in, because it's free, and hang out for a little bit. If you don't like it, you can bounce. If you think it's great, you can stick around. I go live there every Monday morning to kick off your weight loss week, help you get centered, and remind you of why you're doing this. And I leave them up for 30 days, so you can watch the replay of those lives, even if you can't catch it at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time every Monday. But to the question, I want to lose weight. What do I got to do? How do I get the body and life of my dreams? Well, one of the ways to do that is you need to get answers to questions. Now, if you are coming right now, as I'm recording this, we are right smack in the middle. Tonight is day 2 of my Why is the Way Awakening Your Inner Desire workshop. We are doing a desire workshop weekend. And if you're going through this, you already saw night 1, we were talking about questions. Questions. And it is important that we have helpful questions, and so that we can get the helpful answers to. Now, in this webinar I'm doing, I have a Facebook group. We got 1,000 people in there right now. And I asked in there, what are some questions that you need answered to help you move forward? And people showed up. We got a lot of great questions in here. What I thought I would do is take a handful of those really great, helpful questions and answer them here on the podcast today. So let's just jump right to it. All right. So we've got this first one from Linda Lou. I think it's L-O-U-X is the last name. So hi, Linda. Thanks for this question that you asked. And it is, you say there's a difference between an empty stomach and hunger. I do not understand. How do I know if I am truly hungry? I don't know what real hunger feels like. Now, the question there in the middle, I do not understand. Oh, sorry, no, it's right there. How do I know if I'm truly hungry? How do I know if I am truly hungry? That's a great question. Now, when I look at that question, the first thing I would do is say, well, what is hunger? Like, I would want to understand that. What is it? Because there's 2 kinds of hunger. Did you know this? There's 2 kinds. There's physical hunger. This is where your body biologically is telling you, I need energy. And certain hormones like ghrelin are being triggered. As an example, to tell your brain, we need food. And then your brain will then seek out food so the body can get what it needs. This is biological hunger. There's another form of hunger that's called hedonic hunger. Now, hedonic hunger is a little different, because what hedonic hunger does is that has nothing to do with biological hunger. That is hunger purely driven from other things. Could be boredom, could be emotional, could be just because it was there and it was in front of me and it looks good. It could just mean I want to eat it because it's tasty and I want a dopamine hit that comes from eating something super tasty and delicious, right? It can be that simple. But it's recognizing we are looking for physical hunger. Now, the best is to get to a place where you could also identify hedonic hunger. You can spot that too. But first place to start with is biological hunger. beginning to notice that sensation. So the first thing is biological hunger will have a physical sensation in your body. You will actually notice things within your body. Hedonic hunger, you may not necessarily notice the physical sensations outside of something like anxiety or something. And in my membership, the Guild, we have a whole set of lessons talking about how to study your hunger. In there, I actually have a whole lesson dedicated to doing a hunger study and how you do that. And I've actually got that slated. We're going to do another hunger study sometime in the next 2 months. I just put out the schedule for the next couple months. I don't have it memorized off the top of my head. So the way to answer the question of how do I know if I'm truly hungry is you need to do a study of your hunger. You need to look when you get hungry and eat and see what happens. Eat different foods, see what occurs. And you stated here in your question or in your comment, I don't know what real hunger feels like. This is only confirms to me that you need to go study your hunger. You need to take like 2 or 3 months and just get to know your hunger. Start Google searching about hunger. Start reading about hunger. Start talking to friends and family about hunger. Find someone that's thin in your life that's never had a problem. Go up to them, someone you obviously have a good relationship with, and be like, I have a question. Might be kind of strange, but how do you know how much to eat? Look, what do you mean? I'm like, well, look, I'm trying to lose weight and I'm really trying to work on my hunger cues, and I'm just asking people to get some more insights. If you don't mind me asking, how do you decide how much to eat? Or even better yet, how do you decide when you eat? I've been asking people this question now for 5 years. I started asking that question at the beginning of my weight loss journey because I believe in modeling success. I still to this day ask it. There's this guy in my town. His name's Ryan. He's got a phenomenal physique, and I hadn't run into him in a while. I used to know him when I was in high school, and I'd just been seeing him on Facebook. And I was running in the trails, and he's a mountain biker, and I ran into him out there, and I was like, "Hey man, hey Ryan, how are you?" And we were talking. I was like, "Man, you're getting some phenomenal results." He goes, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "If you don't mind my asking, I love to ask anybody who's getting awesome results. Like, how are you approaching food? Like, what's your nutrition strategy?" And I ask it that way because I don't want to lead the witness. I want them to decide what they think is the most important element to tell me. I don't say, how are you approaching protein? Because now they're answering protein. Well, they might not think that's very important to them. I want to know what they think is important. So I asked Ryan, that, like, what's your strategy? How are you approaching nutrition? And he said, man, I'm keeping it real simple. I pretty much just wait until I'm so hungry I'm ready to gnaw my arm off, and then I go eat a bunch of food. It's like, that's it? He goes, yeah. I'd kind of dial it in a little bit, but that's pretty much it. Just wait till I'm stupid hungry, and then I go eat a bunch. And I was like, that sounds kind of simple, but I love it. And the reason why I love it is because honestly, here I'm in maintenance, y'all, but that's not all that different. I just wait until I am sure I'm hungry, like positive I'm hungry, not a little hungry, definitely hungry. I just wait until that moment comes up, and then I go ahead and go eat. All right. That's a great question. All right. Next question. John Wenger? I might not be saying that right. That's Wenger. He asked here. Here's the comment. How do I believe that I am worth it? I would do anything for others, but I do not believe that I am worth the effort. So John, first, let me tell you this. And anybody else listening that feels like John, I'm talking to you too. Every moment of every life is precious. Every single moment of your life is precious, and it is invaluable. The most powerful humans to have ever existed will never buy back another second of their life once it's spent. It is unobtainable to go back in time and relive the past. What you do now will become the past. And the reason why I'm sharing this is to recognize that you have a very valuable resource, and that resource is called life. Sometimes we call it time. Because you are alive right now. You are here right now. And I know that you would do anything for others. I would look into why you feel that you need to do anything for others. Are you doing it for them or for yourself? It might be helpful to be sure you know the answer. Not guess, be sure, dig into it. But why do you not believe you're worth the effort? You've got to fall in love with yourself. Many of us, what we erroneously do is we withhold self-love. We withhold self-care. We withhold self-praise and self-compliments until we've accomplished some arbitrary thing that we said must be accomplished before we can grant ourselves those things. So what I want to challenge you to do, John, and this is anybody else that struggles with this too, your homework to answer your question of how do I believe that I am worth it? I'm going to give you step one. There's more to it than this, but I'm going to give you step one. Go back into the podcast archives all the way back and find the episode, Love Yourself Today. And I want you to listen to it one time a day for 7 days straight. One time a day for 7 days straight. And at least one time, I want you to give it your undivided attention. Nothing else. I mean, you can be going for a walk or something, but I don't want you multitasking. Anything that requires conscious thought. I want you for at least one listen to give that episode your entire conscious energy. And then when you're done with that, after 7 days, I want you to go find the episode titled, it's a bonus episode, and it's Journal Together. Not journey together, not go on a journey, but write in a journal together. I want you to find that episode and listen to that one after you've done your 7-day listen through. That's your assignment. For anybody else that's struggling with that, you're feeling like you're not worth it, that is the place that I want you to do. Next question. Let's find a good one here. I'm scrolling through a bunch of the questions right now. As I said, do we do a presence or do we do a... No, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that one. All right. From Deborah Shortman. Is emotional eating related to stress eating? How do you break free from both? Excellent question, but we need to go through the terms. You have given 2 terms in your question here. Emotional eating and stress eating. All right, stress eating is a form of emotional eating. All right, it is a form of emotional eating. Binge eating is a form of emotional eating. Anorexia, like stress eating, is a form of emotional eating. It's just, the other way. All right. It falls into this realm of your eating behavior is being dictated due to emotions. Now, it can land on 2 disordered ends of the spectrum. You could think of one end of the spectrum takes you to the overeating side where you eat anything and everything. And then all the way to the other end of the spectrum where you're not eating anything, right? It can run the gambit. On either ends is, of course, disorders where the behavior becomes a compulsion. And a person has lost the ability to be honest with themselves at that moment, and they've got to work their journey back from their eating disorder. But then you get outside the realm of eating disorders into problematic. It's messing with your life. It's causing reactions you don't like. It may not be a full-fledged disorder, but it is definitely a problematic behavior. And if you're older than 12 minutes in age, you have learned that changing your own behaviors can be challenging. It's easier when someone else is acting upon you to compel yourself to change behavior. It's hard when you have to do it to yourself. It's hard to be the one that enforces the rules and then has to go stick to the rules that you make. So when we're looking at stress eating as an example, this does not, again, I'm not qualified to render a diagnosis of anything of any kind like that, but from everything I've heard, stress eating doesn't sound like a disordered style of eating. But again, if it's a compulsion, look into that. But if we're just talking like I had a stressful day, I came home and I just wanted to sit in front of the TV, slam down a half a bag of chips and binge zombie out on a great TV show just to decompress from the day, I would call that stress eating and stress TVing, stress binging of food and TV, we'll say. So how do you break free from both? Now, this is a long answer. So I actually have an entire emotional eating course. You can get that individually. Like you can go purchase just that course as a standalone. It's $300, or you can come to the guild and you have access to all my courses with your membership. And so the first thing I would say is go through that program and really understand emotional eating and get the tactics and what you got to do to turn and face it. But the way you break free from it, the really, really simple answer, I'm going to go ahead and just give it to you, is you need to find the things that are stressing you out and make them not stress you out. Through either A, accepting the reality of it, B, changing the circumstances, C, changing yourself. Sometimes the change in the circumstances means you leave. If it's your job stressing you out, sometimes the answer is leave, get a new job. Sometimes the answer is start enforcing boundaries with your subordinates. Maybe it's your subordinates giving you grief, or maybe it's your boss that's giving you grief. It's go manage upwards. Go talk to your boss, right? Maybe it's something in a relationship. Go deal with that. Whatever it is, go deal with it. And sometimes the answer is make it go away. Sometimes the answer is address it and change the dynamics of the situation. And sometimes it's unchangeable and you can't leave. So the last and only answer at that point is you just got to accept it and learn to be okay with it. But just continuing to be stressed and turning to food isn't solving anything. You'll just keep getting more stressed and you'll keep eating more food and you'll only get fatter as you do that. So that's not a good long-term solution to a problem. It's a short-term solution to a long-term problem. My advice is find a good long-term solution when you got long-term problems. All right, so before I go into more questions, I got a lot more questions here. We're going to dig into them. I want to take a moment and invite you to come join my membership. I know here at the beginning of the year, there's a lot of people that are ready to level up your weight loss journey. And you have probably been considering, if you've been a listener of the podcast and you're not already, you maybe have been considering joining the Guild, which is my weight loss membership. Here's what I want to ask you. I want to invite you to do if you've been thinking about doing it. The time is now. The time is now to join. I'm doubling the price in a few weeks, and it's never coming back down again. So my advice is if you have been thinking about getting in, get in now, because once you have your price, you keep it. So it's $50 a month. It is month to month. You can cancel anytime. I do not lock you in, right? You are welcome to stop at any point. But I want you to come in because here's what's going to happen when you come in. First, you're going to see right away that you have enough content to get you through a multiple year-long weight loss journey. I have enough content in there to help you learn everything you need. So by the time you get to the other side of the weight loss phase of your journey, you will be prepared for the maintenance phase of the journey. You will be prepared for the transition from weight loss to maintenance. I have everything needed in that membership to keep you motivated all the way through to the end. There's a couple hundred hours of pre-recorded content. I do live Zoom meetings multiple times a week, every week. Outside of, I think I've missed 2 weeks a year for vacation. Otherwise, we have meetings every week with me. I'm the one hosting them. We do small breakout room sessions. We also do programs. We've got book clubs that we do. We also do Q&A, hot seat coaching. Every week we do hot seat coaching. So if you want to get coached, you can actually come do that. We're getting ready next week to begin my calorie tracking group coaching program. It's going to run for a couple of months. So if you've been thinking, man, I really want to learn to track calories and I'd love to be a part of a community of people that are doing it, we start next Monday. Like on Monday, we're starting. You could come join us. It's no problem. You could come and join us. I'd love to have you do that. So if you have been thinking about joining the Guild, the time is now. The time is nigh. You go to theguildofchampions.com. You'll be presented with two buttons. You say, I'm not a Guild member. There will be a video explaining everything about the Guild. Look over that page. If it looks like it's right for you, I'd love to have you be in the Guild. We will be reaching out to you the moment you join. It is a real person that reaches out to you, and we want to make sure that we get you connected in with the community and pointed in the right direction. 2024 is going to be your year. I can tell. I can feel it. All right, let's get back to questions. Here we go. Deborah Lynn. Oh, this is a great question. How do I stay focused on things like tracking calories, exercising, journaling, etc., without becoming obsessed and replacing one bad mindset with another? Ooh, I like that question. Here's why I like that question. Because I have heard many times people have said to me, Chris, have you sure you not just traded one addiction for another of overeating for exercise? Yes, I precisely did do that. I traded one compulsion for another. I felt compelled to overeat and watch TV, and now I feel compelled to eat a proper amount of food, and I feel compelled to exercise and get steps. This is why I think this is interesting. I actually disagree with the entire premise of the question. I don't think being obsessed with exercise is a bad thing. Now, if it becomes I use the word compelled, if it becomes a compulsion where you're like, you can't stop, okay, well, now that's a problem. But that's not because exercise was the problem. It's you have become compelled to do some sort of behavior and you won't stop. Like, let's take OCD. An OCD person washes their hand, and let's take an OCD person that has this thing where they continually wash and wash and wash and wash their hands. I don't know that anybody's going to say that washing your hands is bad. There's nothing wrong with washing your hands. I don't even know there's anything wrong with being a little obsessive about washing your hands. Especially now that I've lived through a pandemic, I've seen there's some value in that and some personal hygiene, right, from washing your hands. However, I think we can all also recognize that if you can't walk into a bathroom, touch nothing because you walked in to look in the mirror and walk out, if you feel like you have to wash your hand 3 times after doing that and you didn't touch anything even, you might need to look at that. Like that's a little obsessive, right? And so this is where you will have to look at the things in your life and be able to tell, am I doing this because I'm obsessed and I'm truly like disordered level of obsessed? Or am I doing it because I'm obsessed because I love it? There are millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans that are absolutely fucking obsessed with sports. All their clothes match it, all their social network, the people they talk to, this is all they talk about. They dedicate hours every week to sit and watch games about it. They build their whole life around going to and participating with sports in their jobs and their family. They literally put sports watching up there with their family. There's millions of them. Is that bad? There is millions of people that are obsessed about movies. They can quote movies going back 30 years. They know all sorts of things about movies. Is that bad? There are people that are obsessed with the Bible. They read it every single day and have been doing it for 30 years, and they talk about it to all their friends, all their family, and they're always talking about the Bible. Is that bad? Like, you see, this is where we have to be. Because what we've often done is we are shifting our self-image. I used to go through life believing I was a fat person and I wanted to be okay with how I was living. So I concocted a web of logic, aka justifications, for why it was okay what I was doing and why it was okay that I was not doing other things. Like, well, I don't want to be obsessed with exercise because that's bad. Who says? Who says being just as obsessed with exercise as I was with video games is a bad thing? Because when I play a bunch of video games, in my case, it wasn't leaving me better off. When I go do a bunch of exercise, I'm left better off. The other thing, though, is exercise has an inherent cap. It'll force me to stop doing it. I'll get too tired. Video games, I keep going for a long time. There's not really a built-in inherent cap. It's actually going to be much harder for exercise to start fucking up my day-to-day life than video games or food. So the way I would look at your question of how do I stay focused without becoming obsessed and replacing one bad mindset with another is, I don't know. I take the answer of I just get a little obsessed. That's what I did. I just got a little obsessed because I realized I was obsessed before. I wanted to trade one obsession for another, but I wanted to trade disempowering, maladaptive obsessions for empowering and adaptive obsessions, ones that leave me better off for having done them. Excellent question. Next question here from Sherry Goodwin. How do I stay focused on myself when you have always put family first? Now you said you, I'm going to assume you mean I. So let's put it in I. How do I stay focused on myself when I have always put my family first? You do so by embracing a magical, mystical, wonderful power. You know, there's this, you embrace the power of and. It's, I want to take care of my family and take care of me. I want to be there for my kids to take them home from school and I want to get my steps in for the day. I'm going to make sure my family is well fed and taken care of and I'm going to take care of myself and make sure I eat what it is I said I was going to eat or not eat. It's by not looking at them as mutually exclusive. You deserve to not be last all the time. You don't deserve to be first all the time. You do deserve to be first sometimes. Every time it's a tie between you and your family, I don't know if you're married, but to some of you that are married, sometimes you need to look at your husband and be like, I'm going to need you to pick up the slack here because mama's got to go to the gym. And your husband might bellyache about it. Well, you might have to educate some of you. Some of y'all ladies, by the way, your husbands might need an education on what it means to be supportive. And some of you're with someone that doesn't want to be inconvenienced so you can get your goals. That's not healthy. Okay? That's not a healthy relationship. if your partner is unwilling to support you to get your goals. However, I'm willing to bet that's actually not the case for the majority of you. I'm willing to bet that most of y'all, if you asked, your spouse would love to help you. But you haven't asked in so long, and you're so worried that they might tell you no that you've scared yourself into that you won't ask. So I'm not saying that's you, Sherry. I'm just saying I have seen this many times in one-on-one and group. So something to be mindful of. So Sherry, to stay focused on yourself, it's to not look at them as mutually exclusive. It's to not wait for time for you. It's to schedule time for you. And so sometimes when somebody's like, hey, we got this thing going on Thursday at 4:00. Can you come help? And you're like, nope, I'm busy. What you're busy doing is you're busy going to your Zumba class that you really enjoy doing. You're busy doing Zumba. And you're like, well, but I could cancel Zumba and go help this other person. Otherwise, I don't want to be a selfish, conceited asshole, so I better cancel. No, you are busy going to Zumba because that's your time. You scheduled it. When I have workout times, you know what happens? I'm not reachable. No one can talk to me. I'm unreachable except for like my wife and kids, and that's it. No one else. I will not take anyone's call. I don't do anything when I work out. That's my time. Everyone else can have me later, but that's my time. And so what you've got to do, Sherry, is you're just going to have to make the time. You have to prioritize it. You put yourself up there with and amongst your family's needs, not above them, not below them, with them, because you are a part of the family. And your family should take care of you just as much as you take care of the family. It's supposed to be a two-way street. You serve each other. All right. All right. We're going to end with this one because I love this question. Oh, wow. Yeah. Joanne Phillips. Thank you for asking this one. Wow, there's so many good questions. I mean, there's over 100. I mean, so I've not even scratched the surface. I got enough here to go. So if y'all like this, you all in Spotify that are listening, there's an option where you can actually give feedback on your app. Only y'all can do it. Nobody else can do it. It's a Spotify feature. I read those, like every single one of them. I can't respond, but I can read them. If you've liked this, if you like me going through questions like this, let me know as a feedback point, and I'll read that. If I get enough people saying, yeah, I liked more of this, I'll do more. Also, if you liked it, let me know in the Facebook group. So you can just tag me and say, hey, Chris, I love these Q&A style ones. Like, always let me know what you like because I'll make more of the content you like. All right, so let's get to the question from Joanne. How do you keep going after you achieve some scale wins? Isn't that an interesting question? How do you keep going after you achieve some wins? Now, Joanne, you said here, let me just read it. Sounds odd, but I have historically got excited, then lapsed after I start to lose weight, and next minute I've gained it back, my little loss, and then I give up. It doesn't sound odd at all to me. This is so normal, Joanne. So normal. But to everybody, what she's talking about is people will often sabotage after they achieve success. So it can happen for one of several reasons or multiple reasons, right? So here's some of the reasons why this happens. You'll have to do your own introspective work to see which one applies to you. The first is what a person was doing was too intense. It required too much effort, but it was working. And so the moment they got some progress, they thought, oh, good, it's working. I can just relax. Oh, and they just relax a little bit. But now they're no longer doing what was working. I'll give you an example here. In business, let's say you have an entrepreneur who's like, they're going and they've seen their receivables, their income has gone down. And so their revenue has gone down. So they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't working. And so they just start hammering the marketing. They're just hammering social media. They're talking to everybody they can. They're upping their customer service game. They're purchasing some ads. They've dedicated a little bit more money to ad spend. They're changing up some of their approaches, and they're just marketing. And all of a sudden, it starts turning into leads. They start working on their sales closing, putting all this extra effort into training the sales staff. And then, of course, they want to keep the customers, so they put all this extra money and resources into training up the staff to handle the customers coming in. And then the revenues start coming up. They get into the area, and they're like, oh, this is great. You know what? Let's back off on all this stuff. Let's pull some of this money back. And then, of course, what starts happening? The revenues start going down again because they stopped doing what got them there. They were doing all this work on this marketing, which was bringing a steady influx of people. They were working for leads. They worked on training their salespeople to have service-based salespeople, which closed more deals, and then that brought them in. And then they worked on their operational team to make sure they're delivering the service to the customers that they said that they would do, resulting in not only keeping those customers, but getting referral business because the service was so damn good. And the person mistakenly, and then they'll say the CEO or the owner, whomever made the decision, didn't see that connection. Well, sometimes what happens with weight loss is we get up every day and we're pushing ourselves. We get to 8,000 steps. We're like, it's 8,000, I know, but it's an hour in the day. I can get another 500. And so they go out and they go get another 500. You do that 2 or 3 days a week. You're sitting there eating. You're like, you know what? I'm going to just shove a few bites and I'm going to push those to the side. I'm not going to eat those. You're just across the board. You're just making all these little changes. You get a little progress on the scale. And sometimes you just think, oh, this is so good. I could back off probably a little bit. But you just backed off a lot more than you realized because you were only doing little things. And now you're maintaining. Or maybe the scale just rebound up a couple of pounds because bodies be weird. Another reason why people do this, though, that I think is actually more common is because the progress is actually challenging the self-belief. Because if we lose weight the miserable way, sometimes, we're being really restrictive. When we get progress, we'll back off because we just can't white knuckle it anymore. The other reason, though, is we're doing it so easy that when we lose 2 pounds effortlessly, it freaks us out because we're like, shit, if I could do that, I'll bet I could keep doing that. And if I keep doing that, I'm going to be thin. And if I keep being thin, I'm going to have to suddenly accept all the things that I said I was waiting until I was thin I was going to do. Oh, I don't think I can do that. We actually will psych ourselves out because we'll actually believe it's possible. And then we're going to have to actually start dealing with things. And some things we don't want to deal with. We don't want to see, or we're so worried we might fail. And so this is the third reason, rather than continuing forward and failing as a sucker punch, I would much rather fail on my own terms. I would much rather choose when I fail and by backing off. That's another reason why people do it. But the biggest thing is you've got to keep your focus on your why. So how do you keep going after you achieve some small scale wins? You focus on your why and you stop being so obsessed with the scale. It sounds counterintuitive on a weight loss journey, but you actually must stop letting the scale get you so excited. You also can't let the scale get you too down. The scale truly needs to just become another data point that's paired with a patient attitude, and you're just waiting every couple of weeks to see what the scale does. Because the scale only really is helpful over a period of a handful of weeks. It's not really helpful over a period of a handful of days. You need to see what your trend is doing. And so when you get some progress on the scale, that's actually when you need to be alert, more so than when you're doing poorly. Because a lot of times when you're doing poorly, sometimes that'll give you the kick in the ass you need to keep going. Not always, but sometimes. But when it's going well, I want you to not rest on your laurels. Don't count your chickens before your eggs hatch. Isn't that the saying? I want you to make sure that you're keeping your mind focused on your why, and you know exactly what you did that got you the results on the scale so you can go back and duplicate it and do it again. And if it stops getting the results, you can go back to that plan, that strategy, as I call it, and you can make some tweaks to your strategy so that it starts working for you again. That's what I would advise you do. Great question, Joanne. Great question, everybody else. So glad I was able to answer those here on the podcast. I am so excited for you. This is going to be your year. For those of you listening, this is going to be it. You're going to end this year a very different person than you started it, and you're not going to know how. You're not meant to know. You're not meant to know what you're going to be like a year from now. You're not meant to know all the experiences you're going to have, because that's how life works. It's a lovely present that we get to open every day and see what it gave us. And I'm going to be here every Friday for the rest of the year, coaching you through to the end of your weight loss quest. I'm not going anywhere. I've been doing this now for years, and I feel like I'm just getting my throat cleared. I got a lot of years left in me. And so if you're getting here in the beginning of the journey and you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this. This seems like it's going to take so long. Hey, I know how that feels. This is going to take as long as it takes. I promise. It'll take as long as it takes. Your only job is to make sure you keep going for as long as it takes, to get up one more time than you fall for as many times as it takes. And I'm going to meet you in the middle. I'm going to be here every Friday doing everything I can to keep you motivated, to keep you inspired, to keep giving you new information, to keep your mind pointed in the right direction. That's why I open up every podcast episode now asking, what lessons did you learn from your failures? Because I want you to find the failures. I want you to have them. I want you to fail. I want you to fail often. I want you to fail as many times as you can. And I want you to extract a lesson out of every single one of them and go keep your mistakes original. Make new failures. Because I know if you do that enough times, eventually you're going to be successful. And I just want to keep you going. So commit to listening to an episode every week, no matter what. This will keep your mind focused. Sometimes this may be the only thing that's happening. Is it, well, I'm coming back to listen to another damn episode of that Chris Terrell podcast again. But I'm going to do it because I'm going to keep my mind focused. Because if I can keep my mind pointing in the right direction, I'll eventually get back up and keep going. And those of you that got that great momentum, this will just give you that little nudge, that little push that you need to keep going. And if any of you need more support than what the podcast can give you, head on over to the Facebook group. And if you need even more support than that, head on over to theguildofchampions.com. And I'd love to see you in there. You got this, champion. This is going to be many of y'all, you've been on the road for a while. Well, keep going, my weary travelers. I promise it's worth it as you keep going. And those of you at the beginning, because I know what time of year it is. We got a lot of new folks here just getting started on your journey. It's going to be a wild ride. My advice right now, come into the Facebook group and start talking and interacting with people that have already lost a lot of weight. Look for advice. Look for tips on what you should do in the beginning, but look for advice and tips from people that are 50 pounds ahead of you on the same journey, that are losing weight in the way that you would like to lose weight. Have a great week. I'll see you next week on the Chris Terrell Podcast.